Students, hope you are doing well. Actually, I'm Miss Wijesekara. I'm going to teach you the chemistry part of your O-level science lessons today in order to cover your seminar sessions. I think you all already covered some parts in the last 2 weeks, but I cannot join. But today I'm going to start the lessons. First of all, I would like to introduce how the science paper is first. When you are reading for an exam, first of all, you have to have a proper idea about how the question paper is first. No, you are going to study the lessons and all the things. No, ultimately you have a paper. You have to answer the paper. So first of all, as I think, it is better to explain how your structure of the paper is. Okay, let's see. First, this O-level science paper divided into 2 parts. You are given 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1, you have to cover within 1 hour. You are given 1 hour time to cover, to write the paper 1. It is just the MCQ paper. You are given 40 MCQs. 40 MCQ questions. 2 marks for 1 question. 2 marks. You have to get 2 marks for 1 correct question. When you write the 40 questions, ultimately you can get 80 marks out of 200 marks. Okay, the final mark is 200. Then it will be divided by 2. Then your ultimate mark from the 100%. So finally, you can get 80 marks for paper 1. When you write, if you write 40 correct MCQs. Then I want to say, when you write the paper 1, when you practice with the past paper or the model paper questions, use 1.5 time. Roughly 1.5 minutes to complete 1 MCQ question. But when you cover the 40 questions, it's not the same types. Sometimes you have to do some calculations. You have to write formulas, and you want some more times to think about some questions. Okay, for all 40 questions are not easy. Okay, normally first 10 questions, it's very easy questions. Then when you go to the final questions, it's not easy as the first ones. Okay, so when you write the answers for the last questions, sometimes you want more than 1.5 minutes. So always remember, when you write the paper, try to save time as much as possible, because it will help you to write the final questions correctly. Okay, so when you write the first or middle questions, try to cover around 1 minute. Around 1 minute. Okay. When you talk about the paper 1, you can get 1 mark out of 100. If you write the 1 correct question, then it will cover 1 answer 1 mark from the out of 100 marks. Okay, so when you write the paper 1, be careful and always try to write correct answers because it will help to get 1 mark for the 1 question. Okay, you can get the direct marks from by writing correct answers for this paper. Understood? I think you all have an idea about now paper 1. Now we'll move on to paper 2. The second paper, you are given 3 hours. You are given 3 hours. Second paper, you are given 3 hours. This paper divided into 2 parts called part A and part B. Part A and part B. Part A completely divided for as the structured essay questions. Structured essay questions. And part B completely divided for essay question. Completely allocated for essay questions. Okay. Then we'll see how you can cover the structured essay part. That means second paper, part A. Here you are given 4 questions. You have to answer the 4 questions. You cannot choose. You cannot select. You have to answer all the questions here. Okay. And not like in the part B, in here, part A, when you write the structured essay papers, you have to you have to write the answers on your questions paper. They are given some spaces under your question, and you have to use that space to write these questions. Okay, try to. When you practice with the model papers and past papers, always try to organize your answer according to the space given in the paper. Understood? Okay. Then, when you write the 4 questions, you are given 15 marks for each. 15 marks for 1 question. Understood? Then, 15 marks out of times 4 questions mean total final marks is 60 marks. If you write the part A correctly, you can get 60 marks out of 200. Understood? So when you write the structured essay part, when you study the lesson, sometimes you can study the practical, you can do the practicals. So consider more about the practicals here. All the practical lessons will help you to cover this structured essay part. Understood? Then, when you organize this part A, when you try to answer the part A, always manage your time 15 minutes for each question. Try to finish 1 question within the 15 minutes. Okay, it will help you to save your time to write the part B essay questions part. Understood? Then 15 minutes means you have to cover this structured question part around less than 1 hour. Maximum 1 hour. Okay. Always when practice your papers to cover the structured essay part with the less than 1 hour time. Okay. Then we'll move on to part B, that means essay questions. Here you are given 5 essay questions. 5 essay questions, but here you cannot answer all the 5 questions. You can select out 3 out of these 5 questions. According to your preference or your writing ability, you have to select 3 questions out of these 5. Okay. Here also, you are given 20 marks for each. 20 marks for each. But not like in the MCQ questions or the structured essay questions. In the essay questions, actually, it's very hard to get complete mark. Understood? So always manage your answer, read the question, and always point out what they ask from you. Understood? It will help you to get around 20 marks. And when you write the part B question, use 30 minutes, around 30 minutes for each question. Try to cover the one question within the 30 minutes or the less than 30 minutes. That means to cover 3 questions, you want 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours. That means here you want 1 hour, here you want 1.5 hours. That means you have to roughly complete your paper around 2.5 hours. That means rest you have again 30 minutes. This can use to again recheck, and if you not write some things when you write the paper, then you can complete and you can cover all the things within that 30 minutes. Okay. And the essay questions, again, you have to read what you write before given your paper. It will help you to score higher mark for all the papers. And not like in the structured essay questions, in the essay questions, you are given extra papers. So you can write or you can elaborate your answers as much as possible. Okay. Then 20 marks. For the 3 questions, you can here also totally you can get 60 marks. 60 marks. Here also you can get the 60 marks total. Here you can get the 60 marks. That means for the second paper, total you can get 120 marks out of 200. And rest 80 marks you can get from the part 1, paper 1 MCQ questions. That is how the 200 total marks is made when you write your O-level science paper. I think you all have an idea about how the paper and how the questions allocate and how the marks allocate, and how you can manage with the time and all the things. And now we'll move on to in the second paper. From what lessons or how the questions allocated in the second paper. Okay, I already told you in paper 1 it is 40 MCQ questions. Here in the second paper, first we'll see part A. I already told you it's divided into two parts called part A and part B. First of all, I will teach you how the structured essay or the part A is organized within the paper. Here, normally, first question normally allocated for the, biosphere. The lesson called biosphere. It is the last lesson in the grade 11. Okay, that means the 15th lesson of the grade 11 book, biosphere. It is normally allocated for biology section. Then rest of the 3 questions of the structured essay paper allocated for one for the chemistry, one for biology, and other for the physics. Normally, second question for biology, third question chemistry, and fourth question physics. In this seminar series, I am going to cover this part, chemistry. Third question for the part A, when I am talking about the structured essay paper, third question normally comes from the chemistry related lessons from your grade 10 book or grade 11 books. So I'm going to cover those things with all. I am going to teach you all the, including all the practical lessons with the practical knowledge. I'm going to give you all the things related to chemistry part of your O-level science syllabus. In here, all these structured essay questions. Let's see the third question about our chemistry part. Here, all the questions again divided into 2 parts called part A and part B. Here also, there are 2 parts A and B. Okay. Normally, A comes from the theory basis and B mainly allocated with the practical lessons. When you learn the lessons, when you cover the syllabus, you have to cover some practical lessons, not only chemistry, biology and physics as well. So when you cover this, when you write this structured paper, the B part in one question divided into 2 parts called A and B. This B part mainly comes from the practical lessons you followed when you cover the syllabus. Understood? This is how the part A question allocated in your paper. Now we'll move on to part B. I already told you part A. Third question normally comes from chemistry. Here there are 2 parts called A and B. B normally comes from the practical lessons you learn within the syllabus. When you talk about the structured essay chemistry based question, normally A part questions comes from the periodic table. Okay. Or the bonding. Periodic table, you know, when you cover the lesson, and bonding. ionic bonding, covalent bonding, or there's a lesson called bonding. This also contribute to this part. And formula writing. When you learn the chemistry, formula play a vital role. Understood? Actually, chemistry is based on the periodic table, and again, it's based on the formulas. All the chemistry related lessons and the researches and all the things dealing with the periodic table, and mainly dealing with the periodic table, and this is a fundamental thing, periodic table and formulas. So you have to have one proper idea about how the formula writing is. Let's say example, how to write the formula of water. In the chemistry, you already know it. Simple one. This is H2O. This is the formula of the water. Likewise, there are hundreds of lot of formulas available in chemistry. You have to have one proper idea about main formulas that related to your syllabus. And in the B part, I am covering structured essay question. Okay, part A, third question normally comes from chemistry. I already told you. Here, it will divided into part A and part B. Part A normally comes from the periodic. Part A questions in the structured essay paper normally comes from the periodic table or the bonding or formula writing like lessons. In the part B, it will cover the practical lessons you follow when you cover the lessons. Practicals, let's see what type of practicals comes from the B part. Here, you know how to prepare gases. You know, you are learning some practical lessons, how to prepare gases with different methods. So you have to have a proper idea about the practical basis of those. And chemical reactions. Chemical reactions. Then acid, base, and how acid and base neutralize, like things you are learning as the practical classes. So you have to cover those ones to completely write correct questions for the part B of the structure of your structured essay paper under the chemistry question. Understood? I think you already have a complete idea about the part second paper, part A questions. That means structured essay questions. Now we'll move on to second paper, part B of the second paper. Second paper, part B. You know, in the second paper, first 4 questions allocated for part A, which is structured essay papers. Then part B start from the question 5. 5 question normally comes from the biology part. Biology based question. Biology, it's come from the biology based lessons. And 6 question normally comes from the chemistry. Under this seminar series, I'm going to cover this one as well. That means the chemistry basis questions. And first of all, I will teach you the lesson by lesson. after cover the lesson, finally, I will discuss with you how the questions comes from those respective lesson in the past papers and with the model papers. Okay. Then in the chemistry part, here also, these questions also divided into two parts, A and B. Part A normally comes from the chemical calculation. This is mainly focused on those questions, those lessons, and apart from, they can give other lessons as well to cover those parts. But mainly, you have to have a proper idea about those things. Chemical calculations and polymerization. Mainly. And part B, composition of molecule. When you learn about the chemistry, composition of something play a vital role. So you have to have an idea about the compositions of molecules as the main part. Then 7th question, normally divided for physics part. And 8th question divided for one part for biology, other part for physics. And again, 9th question, that means the last question of your science paper. It will divided for part 1, A part for chemistry, with the second part for physics. Here also, this part also, you want to learn more with the chemistry basis lessons. That is the contribution of the chemistry basis lesson for the second paper, part B. That means essay questions. I think now you have to have a rough idea, proper idea about how the paper structure is and how the question allocated for part A and part B of the second paper, and how the chemistry basis lessons contribute to the complete paper. Understood? And I want to talk with you something. When you write the exam, you are given rough papers. So before start writing the paper, in your rough paper, first draw the periodic table correctly. Apart from that, activity series you have to write in your rough paper. And you know, if you want something and you are memorizing something very hardly, all those things you can write on your rough paper, or you are dealing with some diagrams or some short notes or and mind maps or something very shortly. I mean very short form you have to write in your rough paper. It will help you to memorize some parts when you write the paper if they comes as the questions. Understood? Remember, definitely you have to draw the periodic table. It is the fundamental things of chemistry now, you know. Those are the things I want to cover as the structure of the science paper. And from the next week, I will cover one by one lesson how to cover the chemistry part of your syllabus. Then I want to discuss with you how to study science subjects. Okay, it will definitely different from the other subject. Science, the way of you have to deal with this subject is different from the other subjects like your languages or art subjects or anything. So when you study in the science subjects, first of all, you have to be relaxed. Okay, and don't be stressed when you study the science lesson or science part. Be free first. You have to be in a relaxed mood. That way you have to have you can grab points how explain what points explain in this lesson. This is completely the understanding basis one. Don't memorize. But sometimes in chemistry, some formulas or some diagrams or something you have to memorize. There are some small parts you have to be memorized. At that case only, you have to write, take a paper, take a empty paper. You have to write many times what you should memorize until you are confident enough to deal with that part. Write again, write and be practice. You know, practice makes perfect. So always be practice with the paper. Write again, write until you're confident, until you can memorize. You have to write it. Okay. And it is better to use mind maps, diagrams, or some short notes, some short methods to memorize or understand things. And you know, in chemistry, you are given some formulas. So you have to be familiar with those formulas. So when you're dealing with the formulas, it's a better way to write many times until you're confident, until you be familiar with those formulas. Understood? And when you study a one lesson, finally, you have to cover the past papers, the questions that come in the previous year questions. First, follow the lesson, study the lesson, then ultimately cover all the questions in that available in the past papers. Related question, you have to complete those questions. You have to answer those questions. Then, when you write the answers, if you cannot grab some points when you study the lesson, you can catch those points. So you will discuss with your teacher or your friends, or you can use the internet or some reliable sources to clear your doubts. Understood? So likewise, part by part, you have to cover until complete the whole syllabus. Understood? Okay. You know, science is very easy subject if you understand and if you study in a proper way. Don't try to memorize very hardly or by forcing yourself. Be relaxed first and study well. You can easily get past A. This is very easy question paper if you study very well and if you study in a correct way. And when you write the answers or when you discuss with the model papers or past papers in your school or your class, again come home and study well, do it again. It will also be practice yourself before sitting your exam. And again, as the first day, now I already discussed with you how the paper structure is. Then I will discuss you how you do deal with the science subject and how you can deal how you can study this syllabus and what are the short things and what type of pathways you have to follow. Then as the first day, I will discuss you what is the syllabus you have to cover in this seminar series under the O-level science chemistry section. You know, in textbook, you are given grade 10, part 1 and part 2, same as the grade 10 in grade 11, part 1 and part 2. In the grade 10 lesson, grade 10, part 1, third lesson, and in this seminar series, I am going to cover the chemistry basis lesson. So here in grade 10, part 1 book, third lesson, I am going to cover with you all. Third lesson. That is structure of matter. Third lesson, structure of matter. Under this section, I am going to teach you and I will discuss you the planetary model of the atom, electronic configuration, periodic table, isotopes, metals, metalloids, chemical formula, those like things I will cover with you under this lesson. Ultimately, I will cover all the past paper questions with you all. Then again, seventh question. Seventh question allocated for the chemistry. It is also a chemistry basis question lesson, which is quantification of elements and compounds. You know, in chemistry, when you do practicals or something, you have to have an idea about elements and compounds, how to quantify them. Not the qualitative measurement, as the quantitative measurement, how quantify elements and compounds. In chemistry, we are mainly dealing with the elements and compounds. You know? By combining elements, compounds form. So basis, the fundamental of chemistry, elements and compounds. Elements contributed for, those comes from, they are included into the periodic table in a proper way. No? So how the quantification is, you have to know. So it will cover with the seventh lesson. Then 10th question, 10th lesson. 10th lessons also allocated for the chemistry. So it completely allocated for the chemical bonds. Chemical bonds. You know, in chemistry, when elements and or something combine with the other one, to combine those things, the bonds are itself made. Those normally combine with the bonds. So you have to have an idea about how the bonds form, what types of bonds available, or like things like covalent bonds, ionic bonds, how their properties and all the things you have to know. This will cover under 10th lesson of the grade 10 part 1. Grade 10 part 1. Then grade 10 part 2, 2 lessons I will cover with you under chemistry section. grade 10, part 2. Here, 16th lesson. 16th lesson, changes in matter. Changes in matter. What is this one? Here, chemical changes. You know, in chemistry, sometimes substances, compounds, or they, in order to their environment or something, or some forces, they will be change their chemical structure, chemical properties, or physical properties like that. So here, under the changes in matter, they will discuss chemical changes and chemical equations. You know, in chemistry, reactants combine to form products. So we will write in a proper way, in a chemical way. We will call this one chemical equation. Let's say example. What is hydrogen? React with the oxygen to form water. No? Hydrogen and oxygen combine to form water. But the water property is completely different from the oxygen properties and the hydrogen properties. This water has properties itself. It is different from their reactants. So this will call the chemical equation. Like those things, I will cover you under this section. Changes in matter. Under this section, activity series comes you. I already told you, when you get the rough paper when in the exam, periodic table and activity series like things, you have to write your rough paper. And reactivity of metal, here completely this will cover with the chemical changes, equations and the chemical reactions. Then 17th lesson, also under the chemistry basis lesson, here rate of reaction. You know, in the 16th question, I already told you we will discuss changes in matter. That means how the matter changes with the chemical reactions. Then you know, some chemical reactions take place very rapidly. Some reactions are very slow. Some reactions take millions of years to complete their reactions. For example, in nature, when made a diamond, it will take millions of years to completely make a pure diamond. But you know, sometimes some reaction, they will happen very rapidly. When take the example, when you add a piece of sodium into a water, it completely react within a second. It's a very rapid reaction. So likewise, rate of reaction is change reaction to reaction. So you have to have an idea about what their measurement of the rate of reaction. We will discuss those ones under this topic. Understood? Those are the lessons we are going to follow under grade 10 when we cover the O-level science syllabus. Understood? Now we'll move on to grade. What is the syllabus of the grade 11? grade 11 also syllabus divided into part 1 and part 2. Grade 11 part 1. Under this section, I am going to cover third lesson. Third lesson. What is this one? Mixtures. Mixtures. You know, in chemistry, we normally mix something to find some result. So you have to have a proper idea about how you have to mixture, how the proper amount, and what are the type of mixtures, and how their composition, and how they can separate, or some those things you have to have an idea. So under this lesson, I will cover you the things related to mixtures. That means type of mixtures, what type of mixtures available. That means homogeneous, mainly homogeneous, homogeneous, heterogeneous, like then composition of mixtures, how they are composition, how they different from one composition to other composition. Then, you know, in the mixtures, if you mix those things, if you prepare those things, sometimes you have to separate those ones. So what are the techniques and all the things I will cover under this section. Then, fourth lesson, also a chemistry basis lesson. It will cover you acid, bases, and salts. Seventh question cover you what are the acids, what those reactions, what their reactions, how their reactivities, and likewise as the acid and bases also. Then salt. For example, what is the example of the acid? The common acid HCl means hydrochloric, sulfuric. Bases, what are the common bases? Sodium hydroxide, sodium bicarbonate, potassium hydroxide. Their basicity is different from one basis to other basis. Acidity acid also same. So you have to have one proper idea about those things and their reactions. Let's say a salt. What is the common salt? Sodium chloride, potassium chloride, like salt. For example, when we write as the example equation, acid react with the base. HCl, acid, react with the sodium hydroxide base to form a salt. How the salt form? The negative part of the acid and the positive part of the base combine to form salt, sodium chloride, this one, plus water. Likewise, you have to have an idea about acid, base, and salt and their reaction. Those will cover under the 7th lesson of your grade 11 part 1 syllabus. I will cover you all the things. Then 8th lesson will cover you heat changes associated with the chemical reactions. Heat changes associated with the chemical reactions. What is the heat changes means? You know, when reactions happen, sometimes heat released to the environment in order to complete their reactions. Sometimes when they complete their reactions, they should absorb some heat from their surrounding. At that way, heat changes happen when some complete their some chemical reactions. So we normally use the word exothermic and endothermic. Likewise, it will all related with the heat changes of their respective chemical reactions. I will cover all the things, theory related things related to heat changes under this lesson. Then under part 2, 11th question, 12th lesson include electrochemistry. Include electrochemistry. That means electrochemical cells like galvanic cells or some normal batteries you use, and all things I will cover with the electrochemistry part. Like in the electrochemical cells, electrolysis also we will cover under this one. Electrolysis and corrosion. You know, normally iron and metal, they degrade with the time by absorbing water or the salt or some things. So they will degrade with the times, mainly iron. So we will normally call this phenomena as the corrosion. So this corrosion, there is a chemistry behind those ones. So we will cover this phenomena under this lesson, 11th lesson. Then 14th lesson. 14th lesson, the last chemistry basis lesson under O-level syllabus. This 14th lesson allocated for hydrocarbons and their derivatives. Hydrocarbons and their derivatives. What are the hydrocarbons means? You know, in chemistry, a part called organic chemistry. They are dealing with all the organic substances. Those are not dissolved in polar solvents like water. So, those hydrocarbons and their derivatives and polymers, I am going to cover under this 14th lesson. Like, you know, as the example, C2H2, ethene, propane, butane, like hydrocarbons, you know, in the diesel, petrol, they all contain and bumetal like those ones, and ethane, like gases, or those all contain hydrocarbons. So what are those hydrocarbons and what are their derivatives? Derivatives means by doing some chemical changes, we can prepare their derivatives. So derivatives and polymers, I'm going to cover under 14th lesson. Polymers, you know, those are long chain polymer carbon chains like rubber. For the example, rubber, natural rubber. So those one we'll discuss under 14th lesson as the last chemistry basis lesson. Students, as the O-level science chemistry basis, chemistry related lesson, I am going to cover those lessons during this seminar series with you all, including all the past paper questions with the respective lesson. First, I'm going to cover the lesson. Ultimately, I will discuss you the model questions and the past paper question regarding those lessons. I think now you all have an idea about how the chemistry paper structure, how the O-level science paper structure is, and how the chemistry contribution, chemistry basics lessons contribute to the paper. Then I think you already have an idea about how the chemistry, how the O-level syllabus is, and what are the chemistry contain lessons inside your syllabus. Understood? Okay. As the first day, now I will discuss you shortly the first chemistry basis lesson, third lesson, grade 10, part 1, third lesson. That means first chemistry basic containing lesson of your syllabus, which is structure of matter. Under this structure of matter, we are going to discuss the planetary model of the atom. Then electronic configuration, modern periodic table, isotopes, pattern seen in the periodic table. You know, in the periodic table means the fundamental, the basis of the chemistry. So when you study the periodic table, there are a lot of patterns there. You should learn, you should study those patterns with the element series. So you have to have one proper idea about those things. We will cover those one in this lesson. And metals, non-metals, metalloids, and chemical formula. When you finish this lesson, you have to have one proper idea about the periodic tables, elements, their structures, and the chemical formula. You should be write correct chemical formulas by yourself after finishing this lesson. You know, in the structure of matter means here mainly dealing with the chemical compounds. Chemical compounds. So in this, under the structure of matter means we are dealing with their chemical properties. There are a lot of properties like chemical properties, physical properties like. So in here, we have to cover the chemical properties. That is why we call this lesson contained under the chemistry. So in order to start the lesson, first we will see what the matter is. You know, when we take a box, you can touch it. When you touch, you can feel it. No? So you feel your hand. It's hot. So that is the we call matter. Here, so you know the things in the environment mainly classified into two. So we call this one matter and energy. Things in the environment mainly divided into two, called we can classify the things in the environment, mainly we can classify into two, called matter and energy. Matter and energy. But when you cannot touch the energy, or you cannot uh, feel like the hard or brittle or something, you cannot feel like that. But in the matter, not like that. When you touch your thing, you can feel like, you can identify by touching them, like whether those are hard or brittle or soft or like that, you can feel. So under this question, this lesson, we are not talking about the energy, we are talking about the matter, mainly matter. This matter also we can classify it into two, according to their physical nature and chemical composition. Physical nature and chemical composition. We can classify this matter into two. In physical, when we talk about this physical nature, it normally exists in three states, basically. Exists in three states. We normally call it as solid, liquid, and gas. Let's take the example, water. Water exists in these all three different states. Solid, we normally call ice. In terms of water, water in the solid state, we call it as ice. Liquid state, we call what? Water. In gas state, we call what? Water vapor or steam. When water is in the gas state. So now you have an idea about the matter in the environment and the physical nature. They exist in three different states called solid, liquid, and gas. When we take the example as the water, ice exists as the solid, water exists as the liquid, and vapor or steam exists as the gas of the water under three different states. This is how we categorize something under the physical nature. When we categorize a matter under the physical nature. I think you all clear now. Now we'll move on to the chemical composition. Things in the environment, the matter things, we can categorize according to their chemical composition. You know, matters different from their chemical nature. No? Their chemistry, behind chemistry is different from one thing to another. Their composition is different. So we can categorize those things under this section. Here, we can divide it into two under chemical composition. What? Pure substances and what? Pure substances and mixtures. So pure substance is what? So how they are, our classification is now things in the environment. We separate matters. Now we are discussing how matter differentiate in order to their chemical composition. Under this section, we can divide it into two called pure substances and mixtures. Now we will see how mixtures different from the pure substances. Let's see what is the pure substances. In the pure substances, they have definite composition. They have defined, we can define their composition. It will not change from time to time or the place to place. It will not change. They are definite one. Then they all made up of only one type of substances. So here those pure substances also we can divide it into two called elements and compounds. Elements and compounds. We will see the elements here. Elements also they contain definite properties. We can define their properties. It will not change place to place or time to time or place to place. Okay. And in the specialty of these elements is we cannot be divided those ones into smaller independent parts which has different properties. So let's say, for example, as the iron. When we take the iron piece, if we break those iron piece by applying some force, those separate parts, already separated parts, their composition, chemical composition and physical property, not physical properties, chemical properties, all are same in all pieces, all iron pieces. When you break up iron piece into small pieces, their chemical composition not change, but physical measurements are changed, but chemical properties are not changed. So that is why we call those are elements. And we see about the compounds. Under the compound section, those elements combine in a fixed ratio to form those compounds. Understood? These elements combine in a fixed ratio to form compounds. Take the example, hydrogen, oxygen combine to form water. Even though hydrogen and oxygen combine in a specific way to form water, after preparing their water molecules, the properties of this water molecule is completely different from the properties of the hydrogen molecule and the oxygen molecule. This has specific properties itself. This is completely different from those two. That is why we call it as the compound. It's already a specific compound. Which differentiate from their reactant. As the example, like this water. Understood? Now we'll move on to mixtures. In the mixtures, we can divide this into two called homogeneous and heterogeneous. Compounds, homogeneous and heterogeneous. You can elaborate this their meaning by their name. What is the meaning of the homo? Means same. That means their composition is uniform throughout the sample. If you take some small part of the layer or middle part and the bottom part, well, if you check their composition, all their composition is same. That means their composition is uniform throughout the sample. Example, salt solution. In a salt solution, if you taste some sample taken out from different places, their taste is same. That means homogeneous sample, their composition is same throughout the sample. Not like salt solution, sugar solution is same as it. Here also, when you mix sugar and the water, they mix well, their composition is same throughout the sample. In the heterogeneous mixture, hetero means not same, they are different. You can be remember by their name. Heterogeneous, they are different. That means if you take out the samples from their bulk state, when you see their composition, it will different from one place to another place. Take the example, the composition is not uniform. Let's say the example, lime water sample and a rice and sand sample. Rice plus sand. This is the solid sample. If you take the sand which is not separated one, it will contain some sand. So when you take out some sample, their sand composition is different from place to place. So that means they are not uniform. Their composition is different time to time. That means we call heterogeneous mixtures. I think now you all have to have an idea about the matter, how we can classify the matter. We can, the things in the environment normally categorized into two called energy and matter. We are not going to discuss about the energy in this lesson, under this lesson. So we will discuss the matter. Matter we can divide it according to their physical nature and chemical composition. We are not going to discuss more about the physical nature. It's just existing basically three stages, three states, whole, solid, liquid, and gas. When we classified into chemical composition, matter can be divided into two called pure substances and mixtures. Pure substances again divided into two called elements and compounds. Mixtures again divided into two called homogeneous mixtures and heterogeneous mixtures. The mixtures can be made by combining two or more pure substances. Normally, mixtures, heterogeneous or homogeneous mixtures, we can be made by combining two or more pure substances. I think now you all understand those things. Now, under third lesson, the structure of matter, you are going to discuss with the planetary model of the atom. Today, I am just have a rough discussion about the third lesson. Next week, I am going to discuss with you all the things with the detailed explanation. Let's first we will see what's the planetary model of the atom. Planetary model of the atom. You know, when we deal with the chemistry, the scientists who in the past, they at the first stages, they all try to figure out how an atom is. They are trying to figure out those things with these structures or model or something. So some New Zealand physicist called Ernest Rutherford. Ernest Rutherford studied and explained this planetary model of the atom. When we talk about those one, you have to memorize the name of the scientist. Okay, here the Ernest Rutherford found out the planetary model of the atom. Let's see why this name he introduced into this model, planetary model. Here, electrons move around the massive nucleus like planets orbiting around the sun. You know, this is the sun. Due to the gravitational force, so they are forced planets orbiting around the sun. Likewise, this structure he will substitute to the atom as well. The Ernest Rutherford explained nucleus in the atom. Electrons move in the specific directions due to the force of the nucleus. That is why it is called as the planetary model. Is then again under third lesson, we are going to discuss the electronic configuration. You know, when you study the periodic table, you have to have an idea about how the electronic configuration of an element is. Okay, and next week we will discuss how electronic configuration we can write. Then under this lesson, we will discuss the patterns seen in the periodic table and what is the periodic table is. In the periodic table, like this one. Likewise, the structure of the periodic tables. You have to practice this periodic table to draw along. In chemistry, normally periodic table is the heart of the chemistry, like the heart of the chemistry. All the elements included in the periodic table in a proper manner. So we have to study well. We have to study and understand well all the elements with their characteristic and properties when we study the periodic table correctly. There are rows and columns like this one. There are rows and columns in the periodic table. They are arranged in a logical way. Normally, periodic table we call icon of the chemistry, like the heart of the chemistry. Here, all the elements this is a normally graphical explanation of the elements. There's a we call it as the periodic law. There's a law to organize these elements in the periodic table. We call it as periodic law. Here we call periods, and under this way we can call groups. We are dealing with the groups and periods. There are 18 groups there. 1 to this one 18. Here this column all are gases. Then here under this part there are periods. You can understood 7 periods. 1 to this one 7. One to 7, 1 to 18 groups, 1 to 7 periods. Likewise, this one metals. When you go to left to this side, this corner, you can introduce. You can understand this one as the gas one. This side, normally, we can find out metal type elements. Here, gas type elements. Periodic table, there are patterns seen in this table. We can learn under this lesson. Then when you learn about the periodic table, you have to have an idea about the atomic number as well. Atomic number. What is the atomic number is? We normally call this one as the Z. We symbolize this atomic number as the Z. We call it as the nuclear charge number as well. Nuclear charge number as well. We can elaborate this one as charge number of the atomic nucleus. How the charge of the atomic nucleus is. That one, this number let us know how many protons available in the nutrients if they are neutral. If they are neutral, you can see, you can find out how many electrons available in their atom as well, even though they are neutral atom. Next week we are going to discuss this atomic number more detail, and you have to have a proper idea about by finishing this lesson about the chemical formula. Chemical formula. It is very important part. When you write the paper, you should know how to write the chemical formula correctly in a correct ratio. First of all, we'll see what is the chemical formula is. It's actually an expression that shows what are the elements present in a compound and how their ratios is. Understood? Let's say as the example, the formula means what is the elements. What is the element and how they are ratios. what is and how their ratios elaborate with the chemical formula of a compound. As the example, let's see water, hydrogen and oxygen combine to form water. Hydrogen, one atom of the hydrogen and one atom of the oxygen combine in a proper way, in a proper condition, under the proper condition to form a one water molecule. In here, the properties of this water is completely different. They are hydrogen and oxygen. So that is why we call it as the compound. Here, to form the water molecule, we want 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom to form one molecule of water. This is the formula of the chemical formula of the water. That means, what are the elements? Hydrogen and oxygen. How they are ratios? 2 atoms and 1 atom to form one molecule. This will elaborate with the chemical formula. Likewise, there are thousands, millions of compounds available in chemistry which has different chemical formulas. Under your syllabus, you have to have a proper idea about some specific compounds, normally basic ones with exact element ratios like sodium chloride, sodium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate, sulfuric, phosphoric. Likewise, there are lot of compounds which has definite chemical formula. You have to have an idea about how their correct formula is. Under this lesson, we are going to cover those ones as well. Let's say as the chemical formula, sodium carbonate and bicarbonate. Here. Second example. Here, sodium carbonate. We call this one as the sodium carbonate. We want what are the elements present here? Sodium, carbon, and oxygen combine in a specific ratio to form sodium carbonate. 2 sodium atoms and 1 carbon atom and 3 oxygen atoms combine to form this sodium carbonate. In sodium bicarbonate, here, those two are carbonates, but let's see, their elements are different. Here, sodium, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. There are 4 elements to form sodium bicarbonate, but here this is also a sodium and carbon. This is also a carbonate, but to form this one, we want 3 elements. Here we want 4 elements. Additionally, there hydrogen. Here, 1 sodium, 1 hydrogen, 1 carbon, and 3 oxygen combine to form sodium bicarbonate. That is how we can elaborate a chemical formula. What is the element and how their ratio is. So when you complete this section, we'll describe how we can write a chemical formula correctly in a correct chemical with the correct element ratios. Students, I think now you all have an idea about how the paper structure and the syllabus. Those are the things actually I am going to discuss with you all today. Next week onwards, I am going to cover lesson by lesson by starting first chemistry basis lesson, which is the third lesson of the grade 10 part 1 book called Structure of Matter. Next week, next Sunday from 9 to 11 in this seminar series, I am going to cover, I am going to start the first lesson, Structure of Matter. In here, I will be discussing with you the modern periodic table and the planetary model of the atom and electronic configuration and how to write the chemical formula correctly. So I think you all have an idea about all the things in this, including the structure of paper and syllabus. For that day, I'm going to finish now the introduction as the first day. If you have any question, you can ask me. And next week, we'll meet again to complete the syllabus until you sit the O-level examination for 6 months. I will be with you to cover the chemistry part of your O-level syllabus. Thank you very much for being with me. So thank you.